Welcome everyone. Today we have Dylan from South California, and we'll talk about how to get hired in a big tech company. Hi Dylan, how are you?
Good, good. Great to be here.
And Dylan works at Amazon, right?
Yes, that's what they tell me. But yeah.
Nice, nice. So, first of all, let me tell you. I see some people here. Sorry, package. Yeah, we have done already a Twitter space today. Hey, Anto, how are you? Hi there. Okay, so we don't know each other very well, probably because he's not very active on Twitter. So for me, Twitter is the only word. So if you're outside of Twitter, you don't know me. I can't connect with you, but I want to know someone even outside Twitter. So, Dylan, please introduce yourself properly, better than this, and tell us a little bit about your story. And we talk about, big tech, how to get hired, and other tips. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I'm a self-taught software engineer, sort of a two-time college dropout, and just taught myself off free resources and worked my way up to now being a front-end engineer too at Amazon on a product called Explore. I really sort of my passion lies in education projects and projects to sort of help people grow their careers and may one day go down sort of the developer advocate path that I'm interested in. And so, like building courses, doing mentoring, speaking at conferences, that's where my passion lies. But front end engineering is sort of my bread and butter, and I really just love it.
Nice, nice. I would like to be a little go deeper. So, which part of front end engineer? So, because a lot of people in the audience are also developers, so we can also mention some framework just out of my curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in multiple frameworks, so I have about 5.5 years of full-time dev experience, and I started in Angular JS, moved on to Angular, did a little bit of Vue, now work in React. And I think as you sort of progress your skill set, what's important is sort of being able to jump from one framework to another and master them within, a reasonable amount of time. But for me, the thing I like most about it is there's a lot of moving pieces. And I think if you were to ask people in the past, like maybe 15 years ago, that what's more complex, the front end or the back end, I think almost 100% of people would say that it was the back end. But as you've added things like progressive web apps and client-side caching, service workers, responsive design, and frameworks and lazy loading stuff, and Babel and how to that all these items have made the front end much more complex, and you start having specialists in this role, and that's really why I kind of like it.
Nice. And a little shameless plug. Yesterday, I interviewed Ben Hong of the Vue.js core team. I don't know if you know him, but he's pretty famous. And they say that you sounds like Elon Musk. I don't know if you take this as a compliment or not.
I don't know. I've had people tell me I've looked like Elon Musk, which I found kind of strange. Uh, but
so,
I
so
guess
this is not the first time.
no, it's not. It's something that has happened more and more frequently, and I don't know. But it's not the first time I've heard it.
I don't know. Maybe it's the accent. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, also the tone of the voice. Okay. Okay, Dylan. So let's talk about big techs. How to get hired like tomorrow? What should I do if I would like to get hired, or if I'm aiming? Because some people are really aiming about being hired in big tech company. Someone they get out of some they get a call out of the blue. So what's your experience about what can you do to try to get, I don't know, for someone is the dream job.
Yeah, so working at big techs obviously it has its own advantages, and like I kind of think everyone should strive for it for at least some part of their career. But depending on when you're trying to sort of go that route is what's important. So if you're trying to go for sort of an entry level position, or if you're trying to go in for a mid level position, um, that's sort of what changes based on where you're trying to how you're trying to accomplish your goal. So I'll talk more about the mid-level stuff since that's sort of what I did. The first thing is you have to at least have a resume that people care about. To there's sort of two steps. One, can I get noticed, right? And you can do that way I did it with projects and sort of building courses and You also do that through work experience, and you're going to have some work experience in that regards. But you need to be an engineer that people want to hire and that seem to be excellent in some way. The other thing is once you actually get the interview, you have to be able to pass the interview. Now, a lot of organizations are going to have slightly different interview processes, but the general theme is probably going to have a little bit of system design, a little bit of behavioral, and a lot of bit of algorithms, data structures, and a little bit of practical. And so, when I say practical, I mean like if you're doing front end and they ask you to build a component, you you can do it, right? And when it comes to sort of data structures and algorithms, I've done enough of these interviews that I could tell you that a couple things that I absolutely would recommend people feel really comfortable with is trees, binary search, recursion. You are going to get occasionally dynamic programming questions, and those are terribly hard for me. But so the fundamental stuff is really the stuff I would focus on when sort of studying and prepping. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is if you want to go and jump jobs, prep for 3 to 6 months, and go in, set up one interview a month as you're doing that prep at Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, wherever you want to go. And then also sort of expand your horizons with big tech. So often people only think about FAANG. There's a lot of big tech companies out there, like DoorDash, Stripe, Uber, like Snapchat, that are kind of vying for the top engineers and have a lot of really great engineers on their team. That opening your horizons a little bit to that would be very beneficial as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a question. How is team arrangement for front-end at Amazon, and how someone should prepare themselves to such kind of team setup?
Yeah, at Amazon, one of the great things is that the org itself gives a lot of ownership to each individual team. So it's going to vary. I would say typically you're probably on your direct team going to have some sort of SDM, and then you're going to have engineers, and then there's going to be external people like maybe product or QA, but they're not going to be directly on your team. But this can all vary, and your team may be built of all front end engineers, maybe full, software engineers, front end engineers. Um, you know, it's gonna vary, and I think that's kind of one of the cool things about it is you have the flexibility to sort of structure your team, or rather, management does, in a way that's going to work for your project and for your goals.
Nice, thank you. Just let me get a couple of compliments and then we will continue. Love your streams. We'll learn more from you. Thank you, Amy. And also thank you, Dylan. Great to see both of you. Thank you, Michael. Perfect. We can get back to the questions now. Danush, which one is important, projects or competitive coding ranks?
Well, I don't think ranks are important. I think what the intent of a resume at the end of the day is to tell a story. Can you communicate that you are either skilled, passionate, or something? What is it? What is your resume communicating, and how are you standing out? If your resume isn't standing out, because you have to remember, you're not just there saying, "Oh, I can code." Everyone who's applying for that job can code, presumably, right? So, what makes you sort of special? And the competitive coding, I think that's something, if you can tell a story with that on your resume with competitive, maybe you've won some competitions and that's fine, and that's going to help you in the interview process. I think for me, I've never thought I could be a competitive programmer because I don't have the passion for it. Like I sometimes I enjoy solving algorithms. I have a course called 100 Algorithm Challenge where I just do 100 of them, and I enjoy that. But I enjoy building projects, and long term, to be successful in your career, you have to have fun. You have to keep, be able to go tomorrow and do the same thing that if you're not going to enjoy it, which I wouldn't coding ranks, but I think what's most important is you do what you can continue doing and then tell a story with it.
Nice. I think this is a great tip, but I never heard about this tip. So it's I know about storytelling, for example, for content creation, but I've never thought to apply this to a CV. So I think this can be useful for someone for sure. Thank you. Thank you. So before we step into the also the main topic, and also I want to talk about mentoring, can we talk 5 minutes about your content creator path? Because you had a YouTube channel when you were active, or maybe you're still active, I don't know. So about your experience as a content creator, if it changed, if it now is stopped, or is you are changing something, and yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, similar to like projects, and this is how I kind of fell in love with coding, is I always look at things of how I can accomplish more than one tasks by doing one thing. And I wanted to learn to code, and I also wanted to have a portfolio project. I also, whenever I do one of these things, I want to make some money because it makes it easier to go back to it the next day when it's paying some of the bills. And so I started a YouTube channel where I was just doing, Code Academy, free code camp tutorials, going through it, struggling through it. And my at the end of the day, if it and ended up being a good project, great, and I learned from it, great. And so I built that up to about 80,000 subscribers over about 4 years. I stopped working on that. I think one thing that I harp about that people kind of find kind of strange is like it's okay dropping things, like especially in like sort of American society, that you're very encouraged never to quit anything because you don't want to be a quitter, and then you sort of hold on to things past their expiration date. And so for me, my interest then moved on to like building courses, which I had already been doing. And again, in the same process of, hey, why did I build the 100 algorithm challenge course? Well, it's because I wanted to go work at FAANG. And so I did hundreds of algorithms and studied, and I built a course based off of it. And that not only tells a story in my resume, it also accomplishes me getting better and then making some money. And then, as I go, and, one of the things I noticed I started enjoying more about the live streams, which have kind of been the only thing I continue doing on my sort of YouTube channel, show up about once every month for 90 minutes to answer questions, is that people wanted sort of one-on-one time, which led to the mentoring, which has been something I've been really enjoying. And I think one thing I would suggest to people, if you don't know, like, hey, what is it that what project should I have? Just try and be willing to stop. Like, if you go and build something and you're like, God, this is actually terrible. I hate competitive programming. That's okay. Go build a project and see, do some more practical skills that like you can, find what you enjoy. And so I use quitting as a sort of a positive thing. And I would encourage people to look at it a little bit more like that when they're trying to figure out what works for them. And what works for you now may not work for you in 4 or 5 years.
this is really super interesting. Just let me tell a couple of things before I forget them. The first is that I like this idea of quitting things. I think the best days of my learning process and also about my career, it has been when I decided to stop doing something. For example, I quit my job for the European Space Agency. Now I'm doing something else. So if you quit the right things, you are doing, I think, the best out of your life. Because yeah, as you say, people like to root for you if you are doing something. If you are running, they root for you. If you stop for some reason, they say, oh, why? What happened? What did something wrong? But sometimes those are just they happen because of a reason. Maybe you thought about that. Maybe you, I mean, if you have a different plan, it's totally fun. Like if you feel that something is not good, we have someone from LinkedIn. And just no before I let this in, for example, what you say it's correct. For example, this own series started as a project, as a test, because I made a video call with one of my friends and I put this on YouTube. It's not really even an interview. And then I started doing this a lot, and I made almost 150 one a year in some months. But this was totally not planned. It was just something that I put on my YouTube channel, and it turned maybe on one of my and I don't want to say main activities, but it's a part of all my weeks now, and I like that. So thank you, Nila. What topics would you recommend to a self-taught to read and study about in order to be able to apply for a company like FAANG?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I would highly recommend people learn sort of higher level items and paradigms, principles. So having a strong foundation in functional programming, object-oriented programming would be crucial. Um, understanding maybe singletons, sort of a pub sub pattern would be good. Data structures and algorithms, specifically trees and recursion, would be a good item. And I think if you have that sort of maybe not mastered, but down, that you have a very decent chance of interviewing. The other thing is being able to interview well, and what I mean by that is over communicating. Um, I consider myself an introvert. It's kind of weird as somebody who like goes and puts himself on the internet, but I still consider myself the somewhat of an introvert. And one thing we have to remember is that when we're interviewing for any job, you're oftentimes interviewing with people who are going to work directly with you, and they have to like the idea of that. So if there's something in your sort of demeanor that maybe you're shutting down, maybe you're not making good eye contact, maybe these are things we want to work on just to be aware of it. And so, when I built some other courses, one of my courses called the 100 Front End Interview Question Challenge, which is about answering sort of technical screen questions. It's asked that you record yourself to see how you answer it. Do you answer it confidently? Or when you answer these questions, is it said in such a way that it sounds like a question? And that's important as well because, you're supposed to be an expert. Like when you're going to some of the biggest, companies in the world with software engineering departments that have thousands of members, they're looking for, the top X% of people who are experts in their field. And, how you answer these questions and communicate is very important.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know that, but I'm also a very strong introvert. Maybe now I'm hiding this very well, but yeah, I understand what you say, and sometimes it's not easy. But I think introverts have also other qualities. They are just inside. You just have to put them out. That's the difficult part. Nice, perfect. Okay, then. So, can you talk about mentoring? Because I've seen that now I'll share this. So, for example, I'm interested into that, but I've never tried that. For example, I got a lot of people asking me to do this, but I've never tried. So, can we start maybe from the basics? And by the way, this is the link if you are interested. And yeah, so about mentorship, if it's something that you have always done, little bit, I'm curious.
Yeah, so this originally started for people who are asking for it. And I kind of consider YouTubers in general like a form of mentoring in this space, especially when you're doing like Q&As. Like this is kind of in a weird way, a group mentoring session where you're providing advice. It's sort of, people are asking questions, you're providing direction. That's really what mentoring is all about. I only take on mentees that I feel like are going to be able to commit to what it is. This is, and that's one of the things that's sort of great about people who are willing to pay for your mentorship versus the ones who want it for free, is that the ones who want it for free don't have enough sort of skin in the game. And so the ones who pay for it, they're like, listen, I'm paying for time and energy. I'm going to go and I'm going to kill it. Just point me in the right direction. That's really what your job is to remove obstacles and, help alleviate stress, mental stress, and then actually point them in the direction to get them closest to your goals. So I've actually technically been doing it, I guess, for like 5 years and just sort of had people sort of reach out to me on YouTube through the live streams. And eventually, about a year and change ago, started doing it on the Mentor Cruise platform, which I've become in sort of the top 1% of mentors, have like 33 5-star reviews. And, people stay on for a couple months. I have someone who's been my very first mentee to this day, has stayed on for the whole time. And like, she likes having somebody there to sort of help guide her career as she goes in various aspects. But I sort of found myself very benefited by being a mentee at my second job, where I actually turned down at a job offer for about 7,000 more, 8,000 more dollars, and a job offer for about 25,000 more dollars. And I took the 8,000 more dollar job offer because I really felt like I could get the mentorship from the individual I interviewed with to help me grow much quicker. And ever since then, I've really had a very strong opinion of the value of mentoring, and that paid off quite a few dividends down the road.
Nice. And we have Dennis Ivy in the chat. You haven't seen Dylan in a long time, so yeah, we are here for you, Dennis. So you can see you can see Dylan again. I don't know if you know, I don't know if you know Dennis, but yeah, he's a very good friend of mine. Okay, nice. So yeah, so okay, so about mentoring. Okay, I made a poll on the chat, and I've seen that like not many people have ever tried to get into a big tech. Like yeah, like one out of three have at least tried. But I think if you are watching this, I don't know, maybe you either like my face, which is probably not the truth, or maybe you are interested into get into tech, get into some big tech, or maybe get some more tips. So can we go back to the main topic and maybe also say if this is also linked maybe to the mentoring part, how can we help someone? So basically we are here for you. Of course, if you have any question, just drop this in the chat. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah, one thing I would say about sort of breaking into some of these big tech companies is sometimes people have, similar to quitting, some people oftentimes have a very adverse effect to failing. And I think I saw for Google, it's like a 1 in 3 chance you'll get into Google for anybody who hits the panel interview, or 1 in 2, and so it's like you're likely to fail. And I have a lot of colleagues that have went and interviewed once at sort of, a FAANG company, failed, and will never do it again. They just, I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if it's they can't handle the sort of rejection, um, whatever it is. And so I would encourage people to, one of the things about growth is it's very challenging. And no one comes out of the womb knowing how to code. And no one can know, I don't, it's not like I graduated college or high school or anything like that and was like, oh, I absolutely understand data structures and algorithms. And like, no, it's like these things take time and energy, and like there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. And I would tell people to interview much earlier than they probably think they're ready to kind of see where they stand. And when you do that, and when you're sort of trying to force this growth upon yourself and career, what ends up happening is you're going to challenge yourself, and you're going to put yourself in a spot of where you can fail, and that's okay. And you'll go and say, oh, well, I had no idea how to solve this problem, and this is for sure why I take this interview. And then you go back and you learn it, and then you go, okay, like maybe that one at Amazon didn't work out, let me try Facebook next, right? Or and you go. And so when you think about making that transition, think about it in a larger scope than just 1 or 2 interviews. Think of in a 5, 6, 10 interview sort of realm, and put the time and energy in. And when you're going through these interviews, you're going to be putting time and energy not only in the interview process but also outside of it, because no one likes to fail, myself included. But sometimes that's how you learn quickest. Because when you wait until you feel like you're absolutely ready, guess what? Chances are most people have bowed out and said, "Hey, this isn't worth it. I've just spent a year and I haven't done anything with it." Or what could have taken them a year to get there might have been able to be accomplished in 6 months if they pushed themselves a little bit and said, "Oh, like I don't really." And that's kind of to the point of mentoring is, people they want mentorship in specific things. Everyone can succeed without a mentor. Now, the point of a mentor is to get you to where you want to go much quicker. And that's the value. And, same thing with sort of why I challenge my mentees of, hey, go and interview. It's very rare longer than 6 weeks after I work with somebody that I don't encourage them to interview, because we're going to be able to have that rapid growth by making that part of the process.
Yeah, and I love this approach. I have a past in the sports world, so I like to make analogies, like to start making some games even before you are ready. If you are waiting for being ready for the, I don't know, a box challenge, you will never be ready, basically, so because you will keep just training. So I think sometimes it's a bit underrated, the part of the interview process itself. So you'll increase the interview process, like how you, especially think for people who are not, let's say, like I don't know, actor born as actors, or they maybe they are more introverted. So especially for them, not just for them, but especially for them, as you said, for them the interview process is something stressful, something that you need to get used to that. But I think even if you are very introverted, if you have problems in communication, which I think that it's the best skill for a developer, by doing more interviews, I think that after a while, even if you are very close, very introvert, you will start at least to understand the process. So you understand to talk with someone, how it goes, what they do, and I think that after a while you also understand. Uh, what is good and what is bad in some interviews, because also it's always a two-way process. So I mean, you are there to work there at least for a while, so it's your time. So I think that sometimes, what do you think about the interview process from uh, the the person interviewed the point of view? Because sometimes we always talk about like making questions, answering questions, resolving algorithms,
Hmm.
but what about the part of the person who is just sitting there from their point of view? So what should they do? Ask,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think sometimes that when you're doing your interviews, people have the mentality of like this interviewer is against me, and it's really the exact opposite. The reason companies are interviewing people is because they want to hire people to do work so they can get more
They
work
don't,
done.
they don't want to reject
Yeah.
people, paying someone to reject people. So yeah.
Yeah. It's like, by if I'm the interviewer and I'm interviewing you, I really do want you to pass this interview because then my workload goes down, my stress levels go down. My, stakeholders are happier because our velocity is going up. And, you know, so just from a mentality standpoint, just try and understand that that's where your interviewer typically is coming from. Um, you know, when I haven't interviewed at Amazon, but I have at other organizations. Um, I personally like to see things on resumes and like through the interview process that makes someone unique to bring to the team. So like if I was a manager and I was sort of building a team, I would look for that because I'm a big believer that as you go and you add unique skill sets to, and it doesn't have to be super unique. Like, let's say that I'm interviewing a front end engineer and they used to be a UI UX researcher, right? Where it's like, oh, all of a sudden they have a perspective there that they can add to the product, add to the team, and we all can grow in the process and be a much more sort of cohesive unit. Now, one thing I particularly look for is confidence levels. I back to the sort of point of people who ask questions as answers or say answers as sort of questions. Um, you know, I also encourage people to say they don't know. Like I am completely okay with saying like I don't know in interviews. Like, I have to I had to look up I had to look up an array method the other day. Like these things happen. The thing that a lot of people try and do is especially when they're prepping is they try to memorize. Memorization is a very poor tool to be a good software engineer. You need to understand sort of patterns. That's why you should be able to jump between one framework to another and oftentimes one programming language to another. So um you know, I I have had enough interviews where people sort of you can tell that they're just saying something wrong because they feel they have to say something and it's afraid to say I don't know or answer it in a better way saying I'm not really sure but based off my experience and this is an impressive answer to me but like I don't know the answer to that but what I know about so and so is that this is probably what it is and you answer it that way and it's like okay you can get to the right solution.
Yeah, I've also been an interviewer for a period for the European Space Agency, and yeah, if I meet someone who can't really say I don't know, I think about that person like that will be the person like will make a very huge mistake because they don't want to admit that they don't know something. So they are like I don't know. I think it will like drop some database or do something very wrong just because they can't fail, so they can't admit that they don't know something. So yeah, for me it's absolutely the opposite. Yeah, Dennis says that oftentimes the interviewer hates the process more than you. I don't know if he's talking about himself.
Yeah, it's often I mean, it can be very discouraging being an interviewer where you've gone through,
Mm,
10 interviews in a row and no one has passed it, and, you know, because also on the same side, it's like not only are you looking for someone who you think would be uh, a good time to work with, and like it'd be a good collaborative experience. You're also looking for somebody who is not going to weigh the team down, and can help raise the team up. And you know that's part of the reason a lot of places have you interview for specific teams and see like, hey, what are you bringing to this team here? um, and I can tell you that I've been discouraged at times, and like, you have to go in with a fresh face, excited, and like give everyone a fair shot. And sometimes holding to standards on things, it can be, you start to question it, and then you just finally hit the the right individual. And I think that oftentimes brings you to you start looking, hey, is there something wrong with my standards and our interview process? And there may be. Or is there something wrong with how we're filtering candidates out before they get to that sort of panel interview? I think it's super frustrating for people who go through a 1 hour interview and then they go to sort of a panel stage, and it's like 10 times harder than the the sort of a 1 hour interview. And I don't find that to be fair, or for the interviewer or the interviewee. I personally think that you should have a very similar 1 hour version of your 4 hour version, and that the skill level can go. And sometimes it's not like this, but the world's not fair. What are you going to do? Right. So you go and it's like, here's your 4 hour version that's like 2 steps harder than your 1 hour version, where I kind of feel like you might be wasting interviewers time. So you start
Yeah.
looking at these things.
Yeah, and I think also it depends. Like if the company really needs to hire someone, I think maybe they speed up the process, or if they are full, for example, maybe they make this harder. So it also depends. Yeah, Dylan, I think that you will like this question. So let's talk about perfection. How perfect one has to be in order to work at FAANG. So let's talk about perfection.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the word perfect. I'm not sure. I don't think that's, I think oftentimes we put, FANG and big tech on a pedestal. It is a very competitive environment. And because of it, you get a lot of great benefits and compensation and things like that. Um, and the interview processes can be very grueling. But I think at the end of the day, it goes back to what we said earlier, where you have sort of these fundamentals you have to be familiar with, and then you have to have a resume that tells a story. Now, I don't think I'm perfect in any such way. My girlfriend would definitely tell you in our personal lives I'm not great and perfect. I mentioned I'm a 2-time college dropout. Like that's not great. There's people today and organizations today. It doesn't matter how many years of experience, how many courses and projects I built, and where I've worked, that won't hire me because I don't have a college degree. That's just a reality. And so to them, I'm not perfect. But I think perfect is very, I think that what you should be looking at is, are you a great engineer? Because when you're talking about big tech, you're probably talking about the top 10% of engineers. And so, how do you become a great engineer? And you do it by studying the things that those organizations value and being able to tell a story about your experience.
Yeah, and I think if they were just looking for perfect people, their offices will be empty. Okay, I know that you are working remotely now, but
Yes.
I think you got the idea. You were remotely, yeah. Yeah. Can you say a bit about this pandemic situation, working remotely? Because, for example, working remotely in pandemic, it changed my life in better, I can say. But your experience, and maybe you can say something about these, say, crazy times.
Yeah. So, I've been working remotely for about 2.5+ years now. Going on 3. So before the pandemic,
Same.
and it's I never really mind going into the office. I actually kind of like it. What I mind is the time commitment going to and from the office, and sort of the wear and tear. So like, um, it's a little bit isolating sometimes working remotely, and you have to sort of balance that by having, maybe being a little bit more social. And I think a lot of people are sort of figuring that out in their personal lives and what that looks like. Especially for me, my family is I'm in Florida. My family's in Southern California, so it makes that a little bit harder to see them. I would say, I think one of the great things as far as the pandemic has done is sort of made hybrid work and remote work more accessible to a lot of people, which has opened up a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of great engineers that might be in like, Kentucky, that there's not some sort of tech hub there, right? There's no big tech org that I'm aware of in Kentucky, but that doesn't mean there's not great engineers there. And as companies have opened more and more to remote, you can now have a great career at big tech from your office, from your dining room table if you don't have an office, whatever. And that's probably been the biggest thing. The other thing I would say is that I think what people have valued is slightly different. And I think this is more for me. It was a very hard time for me in the start of the pandemic. I had a 10-year relationship end and then sort of isolated. And one of the things I really appreciated about my current workplace is I kind of told them like, hey, I'm having some mental health issues. I'm working through it. But and they hired me anyhow, which is kind of very supportive. But I think that's been something that you'll see a lot of organizations have done, whether it's been making counseling more available, giving more sort of random days off to sort of mentally recoup after a long project. But I think between the remote/hybrid work and changes to mental health, I think that those are things that are going to be a lot more emphasis on in terms of our field.
Yeah, and if you like, and if you say that you like to work in an office, you should at least try to do 3 hours of commute in Rome when there is traffic. And I think your mind can change after a while. I think I would prefer like work 16 hours per day rather than going back to that. So yeah, there are points of view, of course. A little bit of compliments. Thank you, Yash, Dennis and Dylan, 2 gems in community, and not me, of course. Yash, what are Dylan's? Which are your plans? What are you looking forward to explore?
Yeah, so right now I'm wrapping up on I'm working on the TypeScript section for W3 schools. That's been sort of a fun project that I've been working on. Should be released, I want to say, in the next month or two. Don't have an exact release date, but look forward to that. I always try to have one project. Building up the mentoring has been something that I've worked on for about a year now, continuing that, and then probably build some sort of course. I really do like working with LinkedIn Learning, but I'm really big on sort of building education items and passive income, and but more than anything else, when I was creating my New Year's goals, I had 2 words that sort of symbolized it, and it was social and love. And so, I'm trying to not be such a one-trick pony and just be such a money-hungry engineer that's just a workaholic. And so I'm focusing more on building my social aspect of life and my dedicating the time to my significant other that makes sense, so that I can have healthier relationships in that regard. But that doesn't mean I'm going to put my sort of career or my external projects on hold. It just means that they're not going to be the only focus.
Thank you, Dylan. Okay, so now I thought that we would have had this question and it dropped by Marco. So let's play the devil's advocate role and say, okay, but why? Why should I aspire to work at FAANG? I mean, I'm a software engineer. I can do good things somewhere else too. So we had like this guy. I was expecting this kind of question. So what can we say of this?
Yeah, from my perspective, there's 3 reasons why I think everyone should do it at least one time in their career. One, I think typically, when you're working at FAANG or big tech in general, I sort of use them interchangeably. You are more likely to work with some of the best engineers in the industry. They tend to, congregate there. I'm not saying there's not great engineers everywhere. I'm just saying on a sort of macro scale. And with that, you'll, great networking, a great, increase of your skill. I can tell you from my experience, everyone is a phenomenal engineer and very passionate. So that'd be the first thing. The sort of second thing is you get the opportunity to work on projects that are used by tens of thousands, if not millions, of individuals. That sort of scale and that sort of customer impact is not something you're going to be able to get everywhere. And that may not be something that you value, but it is something I think that should be valued. I think being able to it adds a different layer of perspective, whether it's the on call, whether it's working with customers, whether there's a lot of growth there that can happen in perspective, and again helps build the resume. And then sort of the third is more practical. Some of the best benefits and compensation, uh, really in almost any job. Um, so you have the opportunity to set yourself up financially, set yourself up in life. Money, not everyone's going to be very sort of money hungry, and that's okay. But money allows me to, like, buy a house, right? Save for retirement, help my old sick parents, pay some of their bills, and
Yeah.
and
I got I got the boiler broken and I paid the technician today.
yeah.
Without money, I should have had to fix that by myself, which is not the easiest thing to do, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I remember very clearly 6 years ago sleeping on floors and having my mother bring me groceries. And it's like now, being in the position where when I go visit her, I run to Costco and, like, buy some supplies for her, to make sure, that she's taken care of. And, God knows so many people have student loans that they don't want to carry over. And so, I can tell you that being a homeowner is much better than being a renter, in my opinion. And these items, sometimes money is painted very poorly. And this is actually something that comes up quite frequently in my mentoring, where people feel guilty about asking for more money when they have counter offers, and we have to sort of walk through the sort of mental aspect of, like, you doing what's best for you in your life. Some of you want to get married, have kids, and take care of them, and all that costs money. Health insurance, like, you know there's nothing to be ashamed of in that. And so those would be the three big reasons that I think would help people. And that the other thing to consider is it's not forever, right? So, like, you can go to some of these organizations, get the experience, get the knowledge, and get the sort of compensation increase. And people put value on that. They really do. And so all of a sudden you go and you spend 2, 3 years at a big tech, and then you go to, a company that isn't FAANG. But you're now probably getting better compensated. You still have built that network with those solid engineers, and you still have taken that growth, and you can have sort of the dividends that come with that.
Absolutely. Marco said that you convinced him with the house. Of course, I think maybe, of course, living for money, I think you can literally live miserably. But
Yeah.
of course, if you see this like just a tool, I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with them. Nice, nice, Dylan. So I think that we have touched on very good points. I just want to tell where can we find you, or where are you more active? I shared the mentor cruise. Nice,
Mhm.
nice, right? The link, but where can also find you? Where are you more active?
Uh, God, nowhere. I've been been ghosted.
Man,
So yeah, yeah. Mentor Cruise, LinkedIn Learning. Those are sort of the platforms that I'm on. Udemy for courses, but I'm kind of one of those weird people that have sort of taken a step back from social media. Not doing the YouTube channel. I had a Facebook group, Code Tech and Caffeine. That was about 20,000 people that I sort of have given away at this point. Yeah, it's one of the cool things about changing paces is you kind of have the flexibility to jump in and out. I actually like things more like this, where I can sort of jump in, talk to other people's audiences, because I feel like I've been harping on the same thing with the people who have come to my channel and stuff like that for so long that it's good to sort of spread the word, because that's kind of what I'm passionate about. It's like, it's kind of weird when I go and do interviews. They're like, "Hey, like, what is something you're proud of?" It's never anything I've done at work. Not to say that I'm not proud of it, but, like, the first things that come to mind is, like, building a YouTube channel, courses, volunteering, mentoring. Like, those are the things where I feel like I my passion lies and impact lies. So, social media I've been kind of staying away from, which I know, you know,
okay, okay. Just let me tell you that I'm a bit disappointed because I wanted to see you at 100 of thousands of subscribers on YouTube at least, and so this is the only thing that disappoints me. But of course, I'm joking, and I think that this is we are all special and unique in some ways. For example, in your case, you have used your social media presence in some ways, and now you are switching more to mentorship. There is nothing wrong with that, for example. So you have also used your social media presence that you built, I suppose, by yourself with your hard work, and now you're getting the benefits. So
Yeah,
it's
I'm also disappointed because I would love that silver play button.
let's
But
do it.
yeah, maybe in 2023 I'll make a strong
Come on,
push to get
come
like
on.
20,000
Do it
subscribers.
for me. Do it
Yeah.
for me and for people. Yeah, I can help you if you want. I can help you to reach that goal because I want people to reach that goal so hard. I'm still very far, but I think that you are not that far. That's a bit far. Maybe you should see 90,000. Then something will click in your head.
Almost there.
Nice. Dylan, thank you so much. This has been also a great way to to meet you. I think you dropped some gems or bombs, whatever we want to define them. And yes, so good luck with what we are doing. And yes, we are done for today. I think we will be back next week with this series that now it's going on. We are close to 150. I think we are very close. And yes, this is a series that I created just to meet someone. I also to let you drop some questions. But I think it has been really interesting because this is a topic that comes very often also in my DMs. Because I also worked for, let's say, big tech, so I can also point them now to this video. So I'm happy because I've never done this kind of video. So thank you for helping me to answering these questions and these doubts. Yeah, perfect, Dylan. Yeah, so we're done.
Bye, everybody.
Perfect. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye. Thank you.